Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk, and back to the video today. And we're going to be previewing the defense for Week 1, defensive starters. So we are going to get into this. So there are some starters that will be out. Starting with Bradley Robley, who is suspended for the first week and will be back against Week 2, so he will not be one of the defensive starters for Week 1 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And also Jonathan Grenard, who is questionable, and we'll get into that in a minute. But we're here to talk about the Texans starters. What do these starters include? 2 defensive ends, 1 defensive tackle, 4 linebackers, 2 safeties, 2 corners. So we're going to start with the lone starting defensive tackle. So I think this is going to have to take a decision to make, but ultimately I think the decision between Malik Collins and Roy Lopez. But because Roy Lopez is a rookie, I think it's also between Ross Blacklock as well. But I do think Malik Collins will get the start for Week 1 because a defensive tackle, because he's looked really the best. Yes, Roy Lopez has looked nice, but Malik Collins has looked pretty well as well. So, and the other thing is Roy Lopez has been playing really late in the game, and if you're playing really late in the game, that really kind of means that you're not going to be a starter. He's going to get a lot of time, but just not yet. And so, to the point where Malik Collins should be that starting. So we're running a 4-3, and the 3 is 2 defensive ends and 1 defensive tackle. The 4 is 4 linebackers, and that's 1 out of the 3 out of the 3-4. So, and then the 2 defensive ends out of the first part of the 4-3, or the second part of the 4-3, because the 4's first and then the 3. So you got in the 4-3 of the second part, you got defensive tackle Malik Collins, and the defensive ends are first. The first one is Charles Omenihu, who absolutely looked amazing in the preseason. I think he had 3 or 4 sacks in the preseason, and one was one for a loss, one of the sacks was for a fumble. So Charles Omenihu, and it should be Jonathan Grenard for the season, in general for the whole season, but we're talking about the Jaguars. But Jonathan Grenard is questionable for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And not only that, but I think there might be, after the performance from DeMarcus Walker a couple days ago, I think there might be a little question about who is that last defensive end starter, if it's Jonathan Grenard or DeMarcus Walker. I think this question only might be a question for Week 1, just because Jonathan Grenard has a sprained ankle for Week 1. Right now, I do have DeMarcus Walker as a defensive starter and not Jonathan Grenard, just because we see Jonathan Grenard injured. So, yeah. But the linebackers part of the starters for the Week 1 defensive team, starting up with one of the best defensive players in the Houston Texans, if not the best player on the Texans, Zach Cunningham. Yeah, I don't think this is a no-brainer for the Texans. Really didn't have to play much because, in the preseason, because he wasn't going to make the team. There was no way he was going to get cut. And if he did, it would have been the stupidest preseason move ever made in NFL history. But Zach Cunningham will be that first linebacker starter. And then the second one will be Whitney Mercilus. Moving from defensive end to linebacker will be Whitney playing that linebacker position at the second linebacker. I think he's gonna have a much better season this year, and I think some of the biggest stuff for the Texans defense this year is the improvements of Charles Omenihu and Whitney Mercilus and Lonnie Johnson, and the healthiness of Zach Cunningham and Justin Reed. To me, that's the biggest part of the defense to me. And then also, I think just some of the additions as well. I just think this defense is going to be much better, and this defense has showed it's shown its strength in the preseason. But I just hope that can last in the regular season. So yeah, we got the linebackers, the defensive tackles, and the defensive end. So far, my 7 starters for this team: Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin, Whitney Merciless. Sorry, we didn't. I'm sorry, we only did 2 of the linebackers. The 2 other linebackers. The third linebacker will be Gruger Hill. We saw him look amazing in the preseason closer with just a regular sack, a fumble recovery, and a tackling the running back for a loss of 4 yards. So he looked amazing last night. So I think he will be that third linebacker starter. And the last one will be Jacob Martin. Looks amazing. I think, in my opinion, I think the 3 best defensive players in the preseason were Jacob Martin, Lonnie Johnson, and Charles Omenihu. Those 3 looked like studs in the preseason. Also, Terence Brooks. That's another honorable mention. We'll get to him in a minute. Those 4 guys I just mentioned, Terence Brooks, Lonnie Johnson, Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin, those guys were all studs in the preseason. So, yeah. Moving on. We got the linebackers out. So, the linebackers, defensive tackles, and defensive ends of the starters will be, in my opinion, and should be already... These should be facts. Not only are these in my opinion, but these should be facts. This should be what the defense looks like. This is what the defenses sort of look like. But we got these 7 names from the 4-3. Malik Collins, DeMarcus Walker, Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin, Whitney Merciless, Zach Cunningham, and Gruger Hill. The 7 players from the 4-3. And now from the cornerbacks and the safeties. Starting with the safeties. So you got to think about this. Bradley Roby is not available with a suspension. So you got to think about this. When I don't include Bradley Roby's name here. So starting safeties, Justin Reed and Terence Brooks. I do believe, yes, we all know that Justin Reed, Lonnie Johnson has been moved to the safety position, but I believe this starting week 1 game, he'll stay at the corner position just for week 1, just because no Bradley Roby, so we'll just use him for the corner position that week 1 game, and then when Roby comes back, he'll go back to the safety position right next to Justin Reed. So safeties, Terence Brooks and Justin Reed. Corners, Lonnie Johnson, who we already talked about, at the corner from the left side of the field, and from the right side of the field, Desmond King. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for what the defense should look like in week 1, 2 weeks from today against the Jags. So just a full recap at its all together from the 4-3, the defensive tackles and defensive ends, who will be lining up to face the O-line. Here we go. DeMarcus Walker, Charles Omenihu, and Malik Collins. The linebackers that are part of the 4-3, Gruger Hill, Jacob Martin, Whitney Merciless, and Zach Cunningham. And the safeties in the corners, Terence Brooks, Justin Reed. The corners are The corners are Lonnie Johnson and Desmond King. That should be the defensive starters for week 1. Keep in fact that Bradley Roby is out due to suspension, and Jonathan Grenard is questionable with a sprained ankle that he got hurt on week 1 against the Packers in preseason. But, it really doesn't matter if he misses that first game because we have a decent defensive end in DeMarcus Walker to back him up, and he can just miss the first game of the season and focus on getting that ankle healthy and get ready to face the Cleveland Browns for week 2. That would actually be the best case scenario if he's out week 1, so he can just work on staying healthy. just take an extra week off and be ready for the better team in the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that's probably the best case scenario is him to miss week 1 and have an extra week to get healthier and then be ready to face a very strong Cleveland Browns team. So that's it for the video. And let me know what you think about the defensive starters for the Houston Texans. And peace out. Go Texans.